This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
A gloomy winter slipped past, but gave way to a spring of 1858 that was not much brighter economically. The flowers bloomed, but too briefly to take most people's minds off the trials of daily life. Still, for two groups of people, spring finally brought the chance to follow their cherished dreams of gold beyond the western horizon. Gold, they had every right to believe, was waiting out there. One group, in Indian Territory, prepared to travel the relatively short distance to the foothills of the Central Rockies, where some of them had found gold back in the California excitement of 1850. The other group, in Lawrence, Kansas, also knew that gold existed to the west, because the Army scout Fall Leaf had brought some back from the military campaign there the year before. Unfortunately, he did not know its source, so they had to decide where to start searching. As the two parties provisioned and prepared to travel, a betting person would have put money on the success of the Russell Party out of Indian Territory. Its members had the most experience. Some had come from the Georgia gold fields, and others were from California, where, like many of their fellow rushers, they had met with little success. Their lack of success eventually forced them to return home, but gold fever still burned in them. The initial discovery of placer gold, near where Denver one day would be, dated from June 1850, when a Cherokee party traveling to California panned some color near a small stream later known as Ralston's Creek. As times worsened in the late 1850s, the siren promise of those few flakes of gold intensified, if they could just relocate the place. Veteran Georgia and California miner William Greenberry Russell, known as Green Russell, emerged as the major mover in the early days of Colorado mining. Related by marriage to the Cherokee Indians, he had heard about the 1850 discovery of color. That intrigued him, as did the idea of seriously prospecting in the Rocky Mountain foothills. Correspondence during the winter of 1857-1858 between Russell and the Cherokees laid the groundwork. Russell, his two brothers, and 6 others headed west to Indian Territory in February 1858. There they gathered supplies and other needed equipment, and found more men who agreed to join the expedition. Eventually, the party traveling west included the Russells, some Cherokees, and 2 groups of Missourians, 104 men in all, according to Luke Tierney, one of the early 58ers. After intersecting the well-known Santa Fe Trail, they traveled to Bent's Fort, then up the Arkansas River almost to Fort Pueblo, before turning northwestward toward Cherry Creek. By May, the Russell party had reached the site of the future Denver, and the area in which gold had been found 8 years earlier. By late June, all the groups had ended up together. Disappointment, not gold, was their reward. Over the next couple of weeks, many discouraged men decided to return home. Finally, only 13 men, all Georgians, led by Green Russell, resolved to prospect further. They moved northward along the foothills for about 30 miles. Unbeknownst to the Russell group, another party had had the same idea. Fall Leaf's little sample had stirred up a good bit of interest among Lawrence folk. The long winter evenings gave locals plenty of opportunity to sit around and talk and dream and plan. Still, despite persistent attempts at persuasion and promises of rewards, Fall Leaf refused to guide anyone west to the gold regions. His stubbornness was probably wise. He had no idea where the gold had actually been found, and the Lawrence party going west may have seemed too small for safety. Undeterred by such a minor setback as lack of a guide, when weighed against the expected rewards, about 30 men decided to try their luck at finding the site. In late May, they too set off westward towards Pike's Peak, the only well-known and prominent point in the region. Eventually, joined by a few others, their party grew to a total of 49, including 2 women and a child. As they headed for Pike's Peak, they met some members of the discouraged Russell party, but the Lawrence group determinedly continued. Camping near Garden of the Gods, they enjoyed the magnificent scenery, and several small parties climbed Pike's Peak, including the first woman, Julia Holmes, to do so.